Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Libra, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of May 2025. I hope you're well. I was just checking because I managed to time travel in the Leo reading the other day. I said it was August and I was like, it's not August. I don't really know why I said that. Anyway, I hope you're well. We're using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended at the end that you can access via links in the description box below. You're looking for the links that take you either to Selfie or to Circle, depending on what you want. If you come over to Circle, you can access all of the extended content for no extra cost, plus have the opportunity to come participate in live classes and things like that we run over there. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, please do avail yourself of those links. Anywho, let's flip this around here. Oh, I smoothed my coffee out of the way. You don't need to see that, right? I can't move it any further away without knocking my speaker off the table. So the first thing we're going to do is pull an oracle card for the month, because everybody seems to like this deck very much and it is extraordinary. I mean, even just look at the back of these cards. I mean, there's so much detail gone into them. So yes, let's do that. So we've got 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. I'm going to cut the deck here, so that's your oracle card there. We'll leave it there out of the way until the end, and in the meantime let's get this Night Sun Tarot. It's looking pretty battered nowadays, mind you. I've been hammering it for years. Let's see what Libra needs to know. Tell me what's going on with Libra, please. Oof, right, so we have 5 of Swords in reverse in your recent past. That's rather glorious, I like that. What about current energy for Libra, please? Beautiful. Ace of Swords. And what's coming towards Libra for the rest of May, please? We have the Knight of Pentacles. So you, like, who else was it? I think it was Leo, actually. Not having to wrestle with too much major arcana universal forces working on you this month. This month it's much more about integration of what you already know, what you already have discovered. I think you two are actually the two signs that I've read for so far that have not had any major arcana, and that to some degree, although that's certainly in Leo's case was a little bit frustrating, it's because there was something kind of deeper that needed to be brought to the surface, integrated, released, let go, all that kind of thing, you know, depending on what it is. So you will notice here that you have 2 cards that represent the initiation of something, right? The ace, I think, is more powerful, in my opinion, than the page. But to have both the ace and the page of corresponding elements, and that element corresponding to you, feels very, very powerful indeed. Let me get some clarifiers out on the table, and then I'll dig into what I think about this, because actually even this 5 of Swords here is wonderful in terms of what it is signifying inside your head. So why that is 5 of Swords? Is that what I think it is? Yeah. Knight of Swords, 9 of Swords. Yeah, we're going to go with that. Tell me about the Ace of Swords, please. Okay, well, 7 of Wands. And the Knight of Wands in reverse. And what about the Knight of Pentacles? Oh, okay. So we have the 8 of Wands, the 5 of Wands, the 7 of Wands, and the Devil. Don't panic about that, because I feel like what's being represented here is a release from things that have up until this point really constrained you, and it's a process. You notice there's a lot of swords on the table now that we've got all of the cards out, a lot of air energy, and you are an air sign. What I've noticed throughout all of the signs, to a lesser or greater degree for this month, is that not only is change occurring, within circumstances, but more importantly, change it has occurred within, right? We're in this period now where this is the first full month where we are not in the grip of the planets that have been retrograde up until this point. So I'm thinking about Mars, I'm thinking about Mercury, I'm thinking about Venus. And we have some time to try and work out what this means now in terms of the way that we see the world and the way that we understand everything that's going on. And there seems to be a gradual point of illumination that is occurring for you, whereby you're not necessarily leaping forward like some of the other signs are. I'm thinking specifically like Aries, Capricorn. Interestingly, two other cardinal signs like you. But things being put in place ready for that to happen. I mean, like air, right? With the shadow card at the bottom of the deck being the Eight of Swords, what we understand is that we have been in a prison of our own making, right? That's fundamentally what the Eight of Swords comes down to. And you could stop the interpretation there, but because it's an 8, I think what's really, really important to notice about this is it also represents the way in which we reclaim our power. We bring it back to us. And if your mind creates your reality, which seems increasingly to be the case, certainly according to quantum physics at least anyway, then if you have a very restricted mindset around something, then your experience of that thing is going to be contained within that very restricted vessel of awareness, right? So the Eight of Swords is not, oh no, I'm stuck, I'm trapped, I can't see a way out. It is, oh my goodness, I see now how I have been stuck, how I have been trapped, how, there is an expansive energy that is wanting to work through me now so that I create an entirely different reality. Now, it is not something that is going to come immediately. Whenever we change ourselves, whether we change our mind, change our emotions, fix our hearts, whatever it is, it takes a little bit of time for that to percolate into changes in the environment. But because you have so much all seemingly coming in at once, I think that you're probably following a little bit of an accelerated timeline on this one. So things may not be happening in May, but we might well see into June that actually you take off vertically, because all of the ways in which you have restricted yourself, and I mean this is subconscious fears. We're talking about things that may be, kind of percolating around in the background that said, no, not you, Libra, like this, that, big things aren't for the like of you. What are you doing thinking that you can do this or that or the other, right? As we begin the process of systematically dismantling that which we did not see before in favour of what could be. And there's an infinite set of experiences that are open to us if we can be open to what could be versus what we don't think we deserve. Then the world becomes your oyster. And we're going from recent past into, well, up until the end of May or thereabouts, where systematically you are dismantling all of the things that have stopped you reaching for something more. And you're getting ready to move into the constructive phase, which I think everybody enjoys a little bit more, although you're coming from a place that's going to feel a little bit weird because you don't think about things the same way that you used to. You don't see the world the same way that you used to. I mean, this is the progression that we're seeing across here, right? Literal expansion of consciousness going on. We see it here, we see it here, and we see it here. And this is putting you in a position whereby I think you are much more able to work out. That's very interesting, thank you. The purpose that has been so foggy for you of late is getting brought into very sharp relief this month. That's what's important about this month. Now, does it translate into immediate change, immediate alignment? No, it doesn't. But is it following an accelerated timeline? Yes, I think it is. So I think that things will change abruptly for you in June. I just want to stake my flag on that one right now, right? Because conceivably, the way in which things change in June is something that has been always open to you and always available to you, but you didn't see it, or you did see it, and for whatever reason you talked yourself out of it. That's the thing that's shifting this month. So let's have a look over here. We start off with the Five of Swords in reverse, and this is a spectacular opener, actually. The Five of Swords, like all of the fives in the main minor arcana, they deal with chaos and instability. So in the area of swords, we've got chaos and instability around what you think, how you communicate, how you see the world, right? How you interpret the signals that come into your brain, right? And the kind of picture of reality that creates for you. By extension, also the kind of future that is available for you. Now, I said that I felt like you've probably been in a bit of a fog. I've spoken to a few Libras recently, and certainly that would seem to be the case. But what's been interesting about that fog is that there hasn't been an accompanying self-flagellation that's gone along with it. Oh, like, fucking sort yourself out, why can't you choose a thing, right? We're not falling into the rather stereotypical view of Libras not being able to make their mind up, right? I actually take issue with that a little bit. It's like everything needs to be weighed appropriately before you then throw everything that you have into that's really interesting. Sorry, there's a book on my bookshelf that's just caught my attention. I will look at it afterwards, but it's interestingly, surprisingly relevant to what's going on here. Anyway, oh, that totally derailed me. Where are we? Oh, yes. It's not that you're beating yourself up about the fact that you can't decide what you're doing. There's a patience, there's a waiting here, almost as if you are aware that you are changing, right? Occupying a liminal space, if you will, wrapped in a cocoon, if you will, and that the answers will eventually begin to make themselves clear. Now, you've accepted your starting point, which is the Five of Swords in the upright. Has to have been in the upright before turning into the reverse makes any kind of sense, I'll be honest, right? So that's the starting point. We accept that. That is what it is. The stability has started to come as you have allowed yourself, without equivocation and without castigating yourself about it, you have allowed yourself to occupy a space where you know that there's something kind of chaotic going on here, and the answers will reveal themselves in time. Now, as the Knight of Swords is doing his work, that represents Gemini energy, right? It's your knight, it's an air knight. But he represents the transmission of information. The answers that you've been looking for have not come in one single hit, just like that. Been like, huge rudimentary, like foundational awakening of something. It's been coming bit by bit. And the longer that you've allowed yourself to sit with it bit by bit, I think what has emerged, and we see it in the at least the appreciation of the Five of Swords having been in the upright, now in the reverse, that there are a lot of fears that have been playing out in the background, potentially around the notion of instability in and of itself, which as a Libra you're not going to be particularly fond of, right? Because you like things to be balanced and aligned and all that sort of stuff. But the extent to which there have been underlying fears that have been dictating your movements for quite a long time. Now, this kind of awareness only really comes when we give ourselves permission to be still. And you are being still. It's possibly an element of like chopping wood and carrying water while all of this is happening, while it's brewing, while it's percolating. Because just as you like to weigh everything up, it almost feels like it's been drip fed into your head, and it's giving you time to work out what it means and integrate it into your awareness as you are moving along. Oh, I think increasingly what you're starting to see is how fear has governed an awful lot of the decisions that you have made in the past. And it's almost like with each corresponding minor revelation and the time that has been gifted to you to process that, the scales have been balancing. And I know that this sounds like quite odd. I wonder if I can demonstrate what I mean visually, right? So let's see if I can do this. We've got a little seesaw going on here. It's probably not going to work, right? I'm going to be too, yeah, I think it's probably optimistic that I could use this. All right, let's put it on its end. That's better. Right, so here is a perfectly balanced seesaw. Right, here is Libra's existence. Now, the space that you've been occupying for a while has had the awareness that things have been a little bit off over here, right? So let's just do it like this, right? So things have been a bit wonky over there. And bit by bit, as you're starting to see the extent to which fear and anxiety and maybe the fear of rejection, that feels like it's coming through quite strong, has played a part in what it is that you do, right? We could say that the balance was starting to tip here, right? You were starting to see yourself, and maybe you wouldn't even like too much what you saw. But in the process of integrating these perspectives, like, you're actually bringing the balance in the now. So it's no longer like this, and neither is it actually being threatened to be tipped like this. It's actually achieving this. Now, in your current energy, with the Ace of Swords, I think what we've found is that you hit the tipping point where it's no longer all chaotic and weird, right? One might say if you started to see, you know, how much the Nine of Swords have been operating in your life, maybe that would have been the thing that would, you know, send you into a bit of a pit of despair. And it's like, it's not doing that. It's showing you why. It's showing you how. Like, this Eight of Swords over here is where you have been far more often than you actually give yourself credit for. There may be many points in the past where you had thought you were exercising a degree of authority and autonomy over your life, only to see in retrospect, as you're giving yourself permission to sit with it, that actually what it was a reflection of not really feeling like you had a choice in the thing, right? You got quite literally restricted and restrained where you are. But as this balance is starting to come in, what is really hopeful about the Eight of Swords, which is you can take the blindfold off, you can, you know, wriggle your arms free, and then you can choose to walk the fuck away from that, is the thing that's starting to come into view for you. And that, I feel, is like representative of this Ace of Swords, speaking of the truth of the matter. Now, the reason why the Ace of Swords is quite a big deal for me is if you understand the mind, as I believe that I do, to be a decoder of signals, right? A decoder of electrical impulses that hit the brain through the senses, then when your brain gets an upgrade, right? Your mind gets an upgrade. When you start to see things slightly differently, it's like you upgrading the hardware that you're using, or maybe even probably better, right? Upgrading the software. And suddenly there are increased capabilities, because what was shut off to you is now actually accessible, right? We can start to perceive, we can start to potentially imagine a scenario whereby those things that we stopped ourselves from doing, those are now possible. Now, the Crown of Thorns is around the Ace of Swords here because that's always a bittersweet realization. When we realize that we have stopped ourselves from doing all sorts of things that we might have found incredibly fucking fulfilling for no other reason than We were scared about what might happen. We were scared about the way that we might be rejected. We were scared about actually tipping the balance in our own life and creating an instability that I think sometimes Libras can feel a little bit allergic to. It means that all of those opportunities for growth that will have presented themselves time and time again for you, we've chosen not to touch. We've chosen not to go anywhere near them. Now, this is what the Seven of Wands and the Knight of Wands are talking about here, right? This is Mars in Leo energy, and this is Sagittarius energy here. So we see here we've got somebody kind of fighting things off. We've got an energy of being defensive, of being guarded about what is trying to approach us. And you know what I've always find really interesting about the Seven of Wands? Though it can talk about being defensive, or it can talk about being protective, which is slightly different, you know, or being guarded or whatever. Almost always what we have is somebody using an ace of wands to fight off 6 other wands. Now, within the Seven of Wands then, you have the ace, which is the potential that always exists to change the way that you do things. And we have the Six of Wands representing success and victory and the things that actually we want to kind of feel all the time. So then what we've got is an idea that we have actually beaten off our own success, right? We've taken the potential, and instead of utilizing it in a really creative way and changing our life and whatever, we've actually kicked away any possibility of us expanding into something, simply because we didn't believe that we could do it. When you've got the Knight of Wands showing up there, who is, at the very least, opportunist as fuck. All right, nothing gets past the Knight of Wands because he is so present. He is so in the moment that he sees everything. And every time anything pops off, he's like, oh, am I going to go over there? Am I going to go have some fun? I'm going to do something over here, right? Like, he doesn't really exist in the past. And he almost by definition can't exist in the future, not in terms of projecting his consciousness forward. So this is how we come to associate the Knight of Wands energy with things like recklessness or thoughtlessness, or a lack of engagement with the idea of even consequences of our actions, right? Because the Knight of Wands doesn't fucking care about that. If it's not right in front of him right now, it's not relevant. It's not important. So you've been fighting off your own success, Libra, and you have chosen not to take opportunities when they have shown up in the past. That is the crown of thorns around the Ace of Swords, the bittersweet realization that it potentially was always within your grasp and you didn't take it. Now, let's just pull up. Oh, it's under here. Okay, I was sitting underneath the Oracle deck. Let's just pull up the Wild Unknown here and see if it's got anything else to say about this. Tell me about this Seven of Wands, Knight of Wands combination. We have 8 of Pentacles. Now that's very interesting because the 8 of Pentacles is about discipline, it's about commitment, it's about working really hard, and it is about mastery. Now, I feel like the 8 of Wands is actually, that there are 2 meanings going on here with the 8 of Pentacles, and they are this. In the first instance, there are ways in which you have chosen not to move out into different areas of expertise, potentially because there was a fear of starting afresh anew, right? I know, quite interesting for a cardinal sign, but the idea that you could be a beginner at something, being something that I'm not really enjoying that, right? Particularly if you have proven to be very good at what it is that you do otherwise, right? Or we're talking about, you know, what you've chosen to do for the last decade, the last 2 decades, whatever it is, right? There have been opportunities for you to expand your great work in a different direction and you didn't take them. But at the same time, this card is a reassurance that that is okay because this was always your path, right? The realization in the moment that so much you have not allowed yourself to do. You did not give yourself permission to push yourself out there and rock the boat a little bit. So what you have chosen to do instead actually has given you a degree of mastery, which should give you a bit more confidence about branching out in a different direction, taking your life in a different way, right? It's got those two things kind of built into it at the same time. Let's see if it's got anything else. Wow. Okay, so we've got the King of Cups and we've got the Four of Wands and what that Page of Cups as well. Right. When you see what we've got here is a moving from a state of mastery to starting again, right? We've got the adult swan and we've got the ugly duckling, except it's not an ugly duckling, it's a cygnet, right? And so the cycle, ideally, that we are involved in is a constant, rinse and repeat of initiation, mastery. What this is saying is there's a realization here that you have almost gone as far as you can go in what it is that you are doing right now. And you'll have to take this as it resonates to you. But because it's so expansive, I think there's a huge shift in the way that you're seeing the world right now, right? So if you had got stuck at mastery in one particular area of life and everything else is beginning to fall down, it's because it is time to start building a new foundation for yourself. It is time to push yourself outside of the comfort zone and start launching into the dark, right? But you kind of should be okay with that because there is a level of mastery, there is a level of expertise that you have mastered, particularly around, your emotional state, because you've given yourself permission to be still. You've given yourself permission, and more importantly, compassion in what has been showing up for you over the past couple of months. And this really is a sign that it's time to start moving forwards, right? And as much as we may not enjoy that very much, it is commensurate with this new mindset that is beginning to develop in you. Like, I could well see there being Libras in their late 50s, early 60s, maybe even late 60s or something like that, who are realizing that they have done pretty much the same thing their entire life, whether it's career or, where they live, what they do with their spare time. And there's an urge now to push out into an area that you haven't really any experience in at all, to expand the breadth of your experience. Like, we're literally talking about you kind of pushing away from where you are a master, pushing away from where you are, totally in control and you know exactly what's going on, to beginner territory in something. Maybe it might be picking up a new language. Maybe, it could be any sort of thing. Take it as it resonates to you. So then when we get into May, I feel like we're kind of hitting the ground running. We don't have the Page of Pentacles, which is usually about, the discovery of an innate value of something, quite often ourselves, where we suddenly realise that there are tangible steps that we should be taking in this particular direction because we have newly seen that something has value. I don't feel like there's a major epiphany point for you where it's one way and then it's the other. I feel like this has been a gradual process of integration, a gradual process of reconciliation in what you think, what you see about yourself, and then how you are feeling like it is time to change that. And so rather than starting with the Page of Pentacles, we're actually going straight in for the Knight. And there's movement here, but it is kind of slow, right? It's as you would expect if you're new at something, right? There's a point where what's coming up ahead of you is going to require discipline. It's going to require consistency, for sure. It's going to require you being methodical about what it is that you don't know and the way you are educating yourself in it. And that's okay. I mean, it's a Virgo card, so we're talking about attention to detail, which can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming when you first start in something where, you start learning a new language and you're like, what the fuck? Particularly if that new language happens to be in an alphabet that you don't fucking use. And structurally is completely fucking different. Like the schizophrenic way that Bulgarians construct sentences, I can't even fucking tell you. I love it, but fuck me, it's taking a little while to get my head around. They play kind of loose and free with the order of the words, and that, as an English person who, yes, speaks French and German as well, like, I don't know, Germans put the verb at the end, right? That's kind of a little bit confusing initially, but then, you know, it's the rule and it's how it works, and that's it from that point on. Other than that, there is no difference. French structured very very similarly to English, but then English is like 60% French, right? So that's not too much of a trauma. And Bulgarian, yeah. Anyway, there is the potential for it being overwhelming at first, but I think you are so fucking ready for it. And I think this is the thing that is liberating you. This is the thing that's freeing you, is that you realize where there are parts of your life that have felt quite stale for quite a long time. It's because you kind of kept them like that, because at that point that was less uncomfortable than the potential for instability that launching yourself into something new would bring, right? But you've got new eyes now, right? Your software has had an upgrade, and now you're taking in possibilities that you could not see before. The landscape is completely changing in front of you. And I feel like with this Five of Swords, the right way around this time, right, which is talking about the instability, there's almost like a submission to an instability that you are kind of welcoming. Right? We're not looking at the Five of Swords as having its kind of pejorative meanings here. More, it's like recognizing that the only way that you are going to break through the stalemate that parts of your life have kind of felt like they are is to bust straight through what it is that fundamentally you are really quite afraid of, as represented by the devil and, in this case, right, the Eight of Swords. The Seven of Swords is it can be a card of deception, and I think it's worth kind of bringing it in here in that light, although it's not the main thrust of the interpretation, because when we recognize that we have effectively lied to ourselves on a fairly fundamental level, and I'm thinking about the ways in which we bring up all sorts of excuses as to why we are not doing things, right? And if you've recognized that your life is stale, some aspect of your life is stale, and you have not made moves to bring something fresh and new into that space, then, you know, making excuses about it, or, oh, I haven't got time for this, you know, I can't, I'd love to, but I can't, you know, this kind of fundamental bullshit that we tell ourselves all the time. Like, if your sentence starts I can't, there are very, very few ways in which that is probably going to be an accurate statement, right? What you're saying is it's not a priority, and I'm quite certain I'm not going to make it a priority anytime soon. So there is that aspect of it there. But we also talk about the Seven of Swords in terms of taking a risk. And here's where what I'm seeing feels fundamentally fucking delightful to me, because we have the Eight of Wands right at the beginning, and there are two ways that we can look at that. Notice again that it is another eight, and eights are about reclamation of power or an increase in power in some way, right? So we have the possibility that there are connections that you are going to make this month that are going to speed up this process. Like I said, accelerated timeline. It's almost like when you recognize that here is something that you can do something about and you are willing to do it, the universe starts throwing things in your way very, very quickly, right? To assist, not to block you, right? To assist. But the other thing is, and we're looking at how these wands are coming into land, is that the way that your thoughts are changing are going to start aligning with the way that your actions change over the course of May. Like, I feel like the energy of the beginning of May is very different rather to the energy of the end of May, because I can see you running up against and besting all of the ways in which you might have set excuses for yourself in the past, or all of the demons, right, that we all have knocking around inside us there somewhere. You know, choosing to engage with them rather than to push them back under the bed, right? So an embrace of instability, and literally taking it into yourself and saying, if I want change, the only way that I can do this is by rocking the boat and shaking things up. And so all of the thinking that's been coming on that is helping you stabilize your thought processes, right? Deepen your insight into you, is the thing that is allowing you to chuck a grenade into your circumstances and go, well, I'm not about this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not doing that. I am focused now on a different kind of prize, a different kind of outcome. And in order to make that omelette, I am going to break some eggs. It feels very assertive, Libra. The willingness to take the risk is you battling the demon right there. But I feel like this month you're going to win on this one, because the procrastination, the excuses, anything that you have put in your way in the past, you recognize it for exactly what it is now. And you're not fucking having it. This is the thing. I can feel this. It's very, very strong. I'm not fucking having it. I'm not going to let myself get away with that anymore. I am desperate for an injection of new energy into my life somewhere. I want to feel lit up with the novelty of something that I know nothing about, and I'm just going to push myself into it anyway. Let's see what the Oracle card says here. Okay, pace. Right. Don't run before you can walk. Understand that what is transitioning here for you is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? This bit here is the first step in changing your life. And from here, there will be a next step in changing your life, right? And if you're not trying to make all of this happen by the end of May, if you are sensible and you pace yourself, because you feel to me like you're making such enormous structural changes to your life that really you do want to pace yourself, otherwise you're just going to completely burn yourself out. And understand that your mindset and your computer, you know, all of the the new information that you're trying to assimilate as vistas are starting to open up with possibilities, you're still in the process of that. So pace. Knight of Pentacles. Be a Knight of Pentacles about it, not a Knight of Swords, right? This is a long, slow road, but it's a marathon. It's going to take you a while to get there, which is not to say that there will not be interim benefits, because obviously there will be. But this kind of realignment doesn't happen instantly. If it did, it'd probably send everybody a little bit mad, right? Yeah, I think it would. There's very little from a psychiatric point of view to distinguish between a spiritual awakening and psychosis, right? Now, does it mean that they're all one or they're all the other? No, right? We're not talking about spiritual people kind of misdiagnosing their own psychosis, and we're not talking about doctors misdiagnosing psychosis when it's actually a spiritual awakening, right? But on the face of it, there's very little to distinguish between the two. Those kind of sudden shifts, right, whether or not you feel like it's a spiritual awakening or a psychosis, are fucking exhausting, and you can feel like you're going mad. We don't want that, because you're making major structural changes. So the way that all this stuff has been drip fed to you has been at exactly the right fucking speed. And it's like, don't run the risk of throwing yourself into one of those categories, right? By nuking everything, when the task here is actually to change things bit by bit, right? Not give yourself any more excuses and start the shift, because you feel to me, Libra, like you're opening right up here, and that is a process that ideally we would like to do slowly, right? Pace yourself in it. So I'm going to go now. I'm going to go to the extended. You're very welcome to join me if you would like to do so. You can do that on Circle, or you can do that on Selfie. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not for you, that's absolutely fine. But this is great. This is actually really, really good. And I like the change of direction for you as a cardinal sign. Like, it was always probably going to be a bit more measured than what we're seeing with Capricorn and we're seeing with Aries at the moment, right? I actually haven't done Cancer yet, so I'd be interested to see if there are similar sort of themes coming up with Cancer versus what's going on with Aries and Capricorn. But like, it's like if you want this to have legs, if you want this to be real change, then care enough about it to take it slowly, right? The universe is on board, the universe is helping. There is going to be some instability though, and is it not better that it's managed than completely overwhelming and chaotic? I think the former, personally. So gonna leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.